I'd like to introduce you to the world's oldest baby. So, in a groundbreaking moment for reproductive science and pro-life advocacy alike, a baby boy named Thaddeus Daniel Pierce was born in Ohio on July 26th from an embryo frozen for over 30 years, believed to be the longest known storage period before a successful live birth. His embryo was created in 1994 by a woman named Linda Archard and her then husband through in vitro fertilization. Archard carried one of the 4 embryos to term. She gave birth to a daughter in the 90s, and then her and her husband debated whether to have more children. They ended up getting divorced. Then Linda is now postmenopausal, was not going to have any more children. So she sought to give the unused embryos a chance at life by donating them to a Christian embryo adoption agency called Snowflakes, run by Nightlight Christian Adoptions. And the embryos were eventually matched. We have a photo of the family coming up here. Eventually matched with Tim and Lindsey Pierce of London, Ohio, who had struggled with infertility and were willing to accept even hard-to-place embryos via the adoption program. So this is the family right here. They just welcomed Thaddeus Daniel Pierce to the world a couple days ago, end of last month. Despite a rough birth, Lindsey says that both she and Thaddeus are doing well, and she marvels at how the newborn resembles his older sister, now 30 years old, born from the same batch of embryos decades earlier. So this is a triumph for pro-lifers like myself who view fertilized embryos stored away eternally in freezers as a absolute ethical travesty. But how insane is it that this little baby should be in his mid-30s and instead was born last week?
That is crazy.
Like, that's bonkers.
Can I add something that I think is highly unethical?
Mm-hmm.
I think naming, like giving the name out of the baby, I don't think that's ethical. Even though the baby's 30, like I think they should have kept the identity of the parents and the baby private.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm all for celebrating this because that baby would have been trash in a dumper on the back of a clinic when the money ran out. Like I'm super happy for the parents. I'm super happy for the baby. But I think the identities of the parents and the baby should be kept private because me thinking... I mean, imagine the cognitive dissonance that when you find out that you are 65 when you're 30. Mm-hmm. So, like, I think it should have been up to the baby that, you know, to, like, not have their identity, like, you know, blasted all over the place. Yeah, that's my take.
I see the wisdom in that. I think part of it is that it really humanizes the story and the parents are willing to share this journey they've been on. They want to promote that.
I think this is awesome. Don't get me wrong.
Because, as it says here, estimates suggest that there are over 1.5 million frozen embryos currently in storage across the United States, most of them unclaimed. In contrast to countries like Australia or the UK, which place time limits on embryo storage, the US allows indefinite cryopreservation. So what that means is, for anyone who's unfamiliar with how the IVF process works, they harvest multiple eggs and fertilize them to try to give the client the best odds at having a viable pregnancy. And they implant several of them at a time. Usually, that just really results in one. But it can result in, if they implant a bunch of eggs, all of them take, and then they have to abort multiple babies in order to give you the number you wanted. And the rest that weren't implanted, these are fertilized, viable human embryos that exist. And if you believe that life begins at conception, you believe these are human beings with souls and divine purpose for existing, are then sentenced to potentially in eternity in a freezer. And if they're not in a freezer for the rest of eternity, they're in a dumpster, discarded as medical waste. So this is a triumph for
100%.
For pro-life advocacy, and it's also something that really exposes the evil of commercialized IVF. And I know this has become a real hot-button issue lately of whether, you know, someone who's pro-life or Christian should be pro-IVF or not. I know people who have struggled with infertility and have only been able to have their families because of IVF. But this is a huge ethical concern. Brandon, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a philosophical thing because I mean I'm not in the camp of being like 100% pro-life, like no abortions under any circumstances, like you guys are. So I don't know if I like see it as an evil thing to have an embryo sitting there because I know you'd see it as life begins, like at the moment of like the egg and the sperm coming together and meeting up and making an embryo. But I don't know. I don't know if I see it that way. I don't know if it's that evil. Like you call it playing God, but would God give us the ability to do this with the technology that we have if he didn't want us to do it? I don't know. And I think that like ultimately like we need to be focused on repopulating the earth because there's like we have declining birth rate, and if this increases the birth rate, then it's like not the thing I'm most outraged about. I also think that there's like so many orphans in the world that people should maybe worry about like adopting orphans that are younger rather than like finding these embryos so they could like have a baby like right from the jump. Like you don't need to impregnate yourself with somebody else's kid when you could find an orphan that's like 1, 2, 3 years old. So I'm not outraged by it. I think that it's like fascinating that we have this technology where we could do that, and I'm like, I don't hate the thing. I don't know if I see it as like a living thing sitting in a freezer. I don't know if I see it as like a living thing that's like gets tossed into a dumpster. I don't know if I see the kid as actually being 30 years old. I kind of think that life begins like the moment you start growing in the womb rather than like the moment that you technically are fertilized.
I mean, well, you're correct from a biological perspective of he's not 30. He's, what is it, like about a week and a half old.
Yeah.
And because we start counting life from birth, which is why you don't celebrate the day of your conception, you celebrate the day of your birth. But that's not when life begins. That's just when you enter the world as an independent thing outside your mother.
Well, it's philosophical, though.
It is a philosophical thing, but at the moment of conception, when an egg or a sperm fertilizes an egg, an entirely independent organism has been created. Independent in the sense that it exists with its own DNA. Babies have incompatible blood types with their mothers sometimes, which is what the placenta is such a miraculous organ that it's able to filter blood from one to the other, even if they're completely incompatible for donations later on down the line. But this is an organism that has its own DNA, has its own body, has its own functions. Like that is an independent thing. So to say life doesn't begin at conception, life begins at existence. When it comes into existence at the moment of conception is when it begins, because where else do you draw that line?
Well, think about it like this, though. If you take that baby right now, put him in a freezer, and unfreeze him in 30 years, is he going to be alive?
I mean,
no.
We don't have the cryogenic, but like...
But no, right?
Speculatively,
we haven't tried...
If you were able to perfectly cryogenically freeze a living human being and then unthaw them at another point, the aging process would stop.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like if it worked the way it does in science fiction, where you go into hypersleep or whatever.
The point I'm making though is that the fact that we could take that embryo, put it in a freezer, and take it out of the freezer 30 years later, and have the baby develop in the womb and grow and like be born like a normal baby, that makes me hesitate to say that that's when life begins from like a human or even like a technical standpoint, because. Yeah, not at any other stage of development aside from that first stage can you freeze it and have things be normal when you unfreeze it.
Okay, so then, because I'm curious, and I agree that it is a very speculative philosophical question up to a point. So between moment of conception and birth, where do you draw the line of like something going from this is not alive to this is alive? Is it cardiac activity? Is it brain waves? Is it a form that resembles a human being? Like, where would you put that distinction?
I'd say once it starts developing. I mean, I don't think that there's ever a time where it's like humanely like a okay thing where you're not killing a life to get an abortion. The reason I'm not 100% like pro-life or pro-choice because I think there's some situations where like it should be somebody's choice to do that, like the rare times where they get raped or if it's like a health situation. But no, I do think that like within a month you have a living organism there. I just don't I don't think that like you could look at like you have somebody's conscience there or somebody's like this self-aware being in a freezer for 30 years, because it's not like it knows it's there.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
Feeling physical pain or
anything. There's not cognitive activity on a frozen embryo.
But there is cognitive activity at some point while the child's developing within the womb.
Yes.
So I think there's like levels of evil to it. Like once like farther along you go, if you like undo the process.
Yeah, like I was saying, I don't fully denounce like the concept of IVF. I think the bigger...
We've gotten frivolous with it, though.
The bigger evil is the commercialization of it that leads to to be cost effective, the mass fertilizing of eggs, and then we implanted too many and they all took, so now we got to kill some of them. You pick which ones.
Yeah.
Or the fact that we made a bunch of them, now they're in a freezer, and what do we do with them? I know people who are Christian couples who have tried to have babies, and what they do it the most expensive way possible, which is we are willing to give birth to as many embryos as are viable. So we will only make as many as we want to have, and we will implant them one at a time. So it's like if we make a batch of 4, we will implant, and that is the most expensive way.
Yeah.
And it shows that there is a systemic reform needed here, just like what you talked about with the adoption of existing orphans and
I think there's
children.
like 100 million orphans out there.
Like, do you know how expensive it is for the most normal couple to adopt a child? Like, it's almost as expensive as buying a house.
Really?
Like, with some
Can you look that up quick?
with
How
how much some of
there in the world?
how much some of the fees can rack up to, especially if you have to try multiple times through multiple agencies, through
Like,
applications.
why do they make it so difficult if it's such a problem?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It should
ask-
not be easy
But
to acquire a
expensive,
child.
I guess. Like, why is it so expensive? Why is there so much? I mean, unnecessary red tape. Like, there is necessary red tape, but like, there's a lot of qualified people out there who want kids, who have a really tough time getting kids, and I don't know. Like look at the type of situations these kids are in. A lot of the times, it's like a pipeline for people like Epstein.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's not that many.
What is it? What'd you type in?
How many orphans there is?
In the world?
Yeah.
And what does it say?
Do you have a guess?
I thought it was like 100 million.
That's one parent orphan. They lost one of the parents, 100 million.
Okay.
But we don't count those. You still have a parent.
Okay.
Well, what do you think is the count for both parents?
5 million?
15.
That's pretty high.
yeah. I mean,
But for 8 billion, it's nothing.
and that
It's
also
marginal.
relies on the fact that
But it is
like
marginal.
everything is being reported accurately. But in the third world and places like that, where like who's
Like
keep,
a Jaguar eats your parents.
yeah, who's keeping tabs on orphans in Africa?
No, this is the count for everywhere.
Yeah, I know, but like that's just what we know of. But of course, you can't adopt an orphan from Africa who has no ties to any ability to adopt them.
Right.
So, or like in China, where they used to just leave babies out to die. Those don't count as orphans. Those are just babies they were trying to kill.
Yeah.
So it's hard to get an accurate number, but I agree. Even if we were to try to adopt orphans domestically, it would be so prohibitively expensive, and it shouldn't be.
Right.
And things like embryo adoptions
Can
are
I be
also a
that
great
guy?
solution.
Oh my god! Sheesh! What an episode.
What?
It's unnatural to raise someone else's offspring.
Is it? It's unnatural.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I agree. Like, I don't like. I wouldn't be inclined to do that. I would definitely be more inclined to like raise my own. But there are people out there who want to like raise a child so badly that they would be willing to do that. Like, there's people out there who like take an embryo or take like an egg or a sperm from other couples or like donors and like just like go through with the process that way rather than like adopting or rather than doing their own way.
Yeah.
So I mean, there are people who want to do it badly enough to go that route.
But can I get my take on this story?
we're on a podcast about that. Please do.
I absolutely disagree with everything that Brandon said, and I want to get into the details.
Because you can't make a good enough case?
No, I can make a great case. But I made the case on this show like 1,000 times, Brandon. I don't want to start screaming and shouting. But I think we need to fix this problem way earlier, like way down the line. We're engaging in some very unnatural behavioral patterns, all right? Like you and I were both married. You know, you just had your first child. And you right now you're considered a young-ish parent.
Which is insane.
It's
I'm 28 and just had a baby.
It's
like
insane.
There are people who have babies much younger. My younger brother and his wife are on their second, and he's 4 years younger than me.
All right.
But the fact that a 28-year-old is considered a young parent, it's
insane.
kind of nuts.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Because people used to have multiple children by like 18, 19. And that's
Right.
not to say teenagers should get pregnant as a matter of, common course. But at various points in human civilization, like you just started reproducing as soon as you were able to reproduce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, wait until your mid-30s. Like you realize that if you're a woman and you get pregnant at 35, it's considered a geriatric pregnancy with all sorts of like major medical complications.
Like higher likelihood of gayness. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, no, higher likelihood of all sorts of stuff, including losing the pregnancy.
Yeah.
Like the closer you get to 40, like that's kind of consider the cutoff point. Any pregnancy after 40, and you're like in medical crisis from the moment the stick turns pink.
All right, so we're going back to that's the most obvious thing. All right, that kind of behavior of like starting to have your children at 30, that's weird. All right, and it's a natural, and it brings down the chances of you actually being able to reproduce. All right, that's the first thing. The second thing, the economic considerations, and we beat this topic to death. Like the way the system is set up right now, and the way that taxes, like for example, if you are low value, I can't say low value.
What, member of society?
I don't want to say that.
Income
Colors your
earner?
Bugatti.
Like you, like you just don't make a lot of money. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, if you make zero money and you get money for not doing anything.
Oh, like welfare state people?
I didn't
Where-
say
where-
that,
where
but I
each-
might agree. I don't
each
know.
No, they're
child-
incentivized to have more kids.
Each child born
Yeah.
out of wedlock to a welfare recipient is a paycheck to them.
So if we do the incentives, like if we put it on a balance, like the lowest contributing members of society have the easiest time to optimize their fertility at a younger age and produce more offspring, when the highest contributing people of society are held by their job, the time that requires stress.
No, I just did a whole research project on this a couple months ago.
Oh, sorry, I'm onto something.
Yeah, did you know that the declining birth rates for welfare recipients did not start dropping to match the population at large until like 15, 20 years ago?
That's nuts.
Like we were already in a birth rate decline.
That's nuts.
Generally, it did not catch up among people on welfare until
That is
like well
crazy.
after that.
That's nuts. All right, so I fully I stand in your same position when it comes to IBF, but I think we need to fix so many things, like down the factory line before we get to the IBF thing.
Yeah.
because I think we're gonna go extinct. That's my take on it.
Yeah, we're on that trend.
With IVF, with no IVF, like, 'cause even if you maximize IVF to like the full potential, and everyone can get IVF for free, let's say, we're still not gonna get to Connor. We hit the lowest point in fertility this week at
6.
1.6, Connor. That's way below replacement rate, because like most all babies,
2.5 is replacement.
2.5
So that
is
means everybody has to
replacement.
have 3 kids unless you know of how to have half a child. But yeah, we are dipping lower and lower and lower. And I get it. I have one child. I've had one child for 4 months. Every time a bill shows up in the mail, I'm like, I'm not doing this again. I don't know how we did it the first time. Like,
Yeah.
this doesn't make any sense.
and you need to make 2 more to get to replacement rate.
and even
it's
then,
insane.
I need to have 2 more to get to replacement rate for my family, but I need all my neighbors, all my friends, all my coworkers, every person in the civilization needs to be having 3 children in order for us to be growing.
So
Otherwise, we are shrinking because one person can't offset that.
So, like in the big scheme of things, even though it breaks my heart, I believe that life starts at conception, and I think it's highly unethical the way we're doing it and everything. But on the big scheme of things, like anything that can cap us having a slight chance of surviving as a species, like I don't think that's my first line of attack. You know what I mean? It's still in my heart, it's still in my brain. But anything that will cap it even more,
Yeah, there's much bigger issues to deal with, but this is a symptom.
It's
of
a
the
very
same-
important
it's
one.
a symptom of the same problem.
A sick
And
society.
For what it's worth, I'm very glad that little Thaddeus is now in the world. I believe God created him with a unique soul and a unique purpose, and willed that he would exist, whether that was in 1994 or 2025. He's here now. We wish him and his family all the best. And we are thankful that this story at least kind of sheds light on the
very important to bring
importance
it up.
of this subject. But on that note, I think that is where we are going to have
I
to
feel
leave
sad
you.
for him. He missed the best part.
Yeah, he
my
missed
God,
the
it was
90s.
Yeah,
so
30 years
good.
ago would have been better.
Oh
Yeah.
man, it was so good.
He could have lived through some great stuff, but
Going to Blockbuster with
Yeah.
my parents, renting movies, getting
now he gets
candy,
TikTok and Fortnite.
Like my Game Boy. Oh my God, that
Dial-up
thing.
computer.
Dial-up. Oh my God, riding my bike around.
So if you like this clip, click right here. And if you want to see more like it, click right here. Stay angry, Patriots.